So my name's Scott Badeau. I'm here with the Mere Mortals Mountain Biking Podcast, and I've got guest Amy Charity from Steamboat Springs, Colorado, who's going to talk a little bit about the joys of gravel riding as well as racing that type of cycling. So Amy, would you mind giving a brief introduction of both yourself personally as well as the Steamboat Gravel event that you co-founded?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yes, so my background, I started bike racing on the road in sort of later in life. I was in my early 30s when I really started to pursue racing, and then ended up with a professional racing career for the next 6 or 7 years. Raced on the U.S. national team among a couple of other U.S. trade teams. So that is how it began for cycling. And then I moved into gravel riding after I was done with road racing, and found an entire new love of the similar sport, but something that felt a little bit different than what road racing had felt like. And so I became a gravel racer, and it was at that time I did Unbound one year. It was in 2018, and decided that this Steamboat would be a great place to put on a gravel cycling event. We have a lot of roads here that are unpaved, and it's something that all of the locals had been riding for years. And so a couple of friends and I put together the whole concept for what later became SBT Gravel, and threw ourselves into that 100%. And now we have SBT. The first year was 2019, and so we have an event that we cap right around 3,000 people, and it's a gravel cycling event, distances ranging from approximately 30 miles all the way up to 120 miles. There are 4 course distances, and it's a race that is very much open and welcoming to any type of cyclist, whether you are brand new doing your first race or your first gravel event, all the way to the World Tour pros. So we really cater to the masses, and that's been what's been so unique about gravel cycling.
That's exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast because my approach is to sort of inspire people into trying racing in a format that's not quite as intimidating. And so you're pretty humble with your description of the event. I didn't get a chance to bump into you when I lived in Steamboat. I moved there in about 2007, I think, and left about 10 years later. But I did know Mark, who I know you co-founded the event with, and I just found all of you to be super community focused, super humble about the event, despite putting on a very amazing race that got worldwide recognition within the very first year. But before we get to sort of what that race looks like, could you sort of compare and contrast mountain biking to gravel riding? Because most of our listeners, I think, probably 99% of what they do is mountain biking. And then if you wouldn't mind, also talk about the difference in gravel conditions, because I know Steamboat, sort of has the champagne phrase for the snow that I'm not allowed to say since it's trademarked, but I think I can say champagne gravel, right? And I've certainly
Yes,
experienced that
absolutely. Yes.
there. So yeah, maybe talk about the differences of mountain biking and then some of the differences of different types of gravel riding.
Yeah. So in terms of mountain biking, I think some of the best similarities are on gravel. You're typically away from cars and traffic. I think that's why a lot of people gravitated from the road to gravel, was because of the safety aspect. These roads in most places, regardless of what gravel event you do, they're typically away from cars, and that's really an appeal. Gravel surfaces vary tremendously. So I've done gravel events all over the world. In Mexico, it can be anything from torn up concrete to cactus fields to anything. Unbound has some really tricky sections, some rutted sections. Mid-South, it depends on the weather. If it's raining, it's the muddiest race you've ever done. And if it's dry, it's really smooth. Steamboat is very lucky. Routt County has very smooth gravel roads. And yes, we refer to it as champagne gravel. And we intentionally select courses that are approachable for any level of rider or racer. There are a lot of different areas we could take people. You would know that riding up the ski mountain is gravel, but that's a really, really tough climb. Or there's some single track we could take people to that is technically gravel, but we try to keep it approachable. In terms of the differences of mountain biking and gravel riding, I'd say that gravel riding requires the skill set of pedaling essentially. So the majority of our roads in Steamboat are so smooth that it's like riding on a paved road. Mountain biking can have a bigger sort of learning curve. There's a lot more technical featured um, variety that's out there. So I'd say that that's one of the main differences. With gravel riding, at least on the smooth roads, you can ride in a group or a pack, and drafting is a key component of it when it is a smooth surface. That's a little bit different than mountain biking, which is finding your placement immediately and getting there, especially if for your audience that are the mountain bike racers, getting a good position and getting your spot on up early and then making sure you maintain that position is critical. Whereas gravel riding is a little bit more like road in that you do have this wider area to navigate and make your way around. So those are kind of the initial thoughts about it. But I think um, and the bike you use is typically different. There are now gravel bikes are very popular bikes. In fact, I'd say they're in some cases replacing road bikes for when people have one bike to choose from. And so having the drop bars, but the knobbier tires or fatter tires to help you in all different surfaces is kind of that hybrid model between a mountain bike and a road bike.
One of the things I've found with a youth team that I coach is we go to an old railroad grade that's been graveled over, and it's certainly variable. It kind of fits all of those descriptions you had. There's a mixture of old, broken up blacktop to more of the champagne stuff. And despite that variety, I find it easier for the newer riders or newer coaches or parents who want to come out and ride with us to sort of have fun on their first couple of rides versus navigating those tight trees and everything on single track. So that's one of the reasons why I'm starting to introduce this topic on this podcast, meant for mountain biking, is maybe people can get some endurance or some higher speed experience, that sort of thing, on an easier path. One thing I do miss about Steamboat, I'm just curious if they still do this, because here in Arizona, it can get very dry. Are they still putting mag chloride down on some of the roads to temper down
Yes.
the dust? Oh, that was
Yeah,
so
so
awesome.
magnesium chloride is the reason for champagne gravel, and that we saw the schedule for when they were putting down mag chloride throughout our county, and it all took place right before SBT this year, which was in late June. And we're so excited that there's little forums around when people are like, oh, go hit 44. It was just magged 3 days ago. It's perfect. And so our county has a huge budget for that, and that's to keep the dust down and smooth it out. There are less washboards. An amazing thing that happens on the roads here and keeps them really smooth.
And tell me a little bit about the course. You mentioned different varieties of mileage and that sort of thing, and maybe mix in some of the verbal description of some of the beauty of Route County that it goes through.
Yeah, so we've done many different courses. Back in 2019, we started with a figure 8 loop, and that went all the way north. Route County is beautiful. That Steamboat Lake is up in that area, and we actually used some private land of a very generous ranching family up north who welcomed all of our blue course and black course riders to ride on his property. And that was absolutely spectacular up by Hans Peak area. Our theory on the figure 8 loop was that we were always within 35 miles of Steamboat. So we started with North Route and then went further south and then went west. And so that was for safety, for efficiency to do the route that way, and also to give a really good idea of what all the roads are like out here. They change a ton. When you're out west by Hayden, it's a little bit more sage, it's drier, and when you're north, it's a little bit more lush, and you just see all of this different terrain. We have since changed the courses the past few years, and 2026 will be brand new courses for everybody, and we're really excited about these. The shortest distance, we refer these similar to how ski areas are rated. So our green course, which is our shortest distance, it rolls out this really fun area called Cow Creek. I don't know if you remember it from when you lived here, but it was it's one of the chunkier sections actually of the whole course. It's not maintained with mag chloride as some of the others are. There, per its name, there often are cows roaming around, and it's forested and narrow. And so all of our courses go out that direction, and all of them come back that direction. And so this year, our courses are bigger circles of one another. The green course first, the red course is a longer loop of that same green course. And there are a few reasons for that. From operations perspective, we can share aid stations, we can get ambulances out there, we can have safety out there. Volunteers are all in those similar areas. And we're also minimizing that impact on our county by keeping everything consolidated into one area of the county. In the past, our courses went all over the county in different directions. So there's a lot of efficiencies with this new course. And the benefit to the riders is if you sign up for the blue course, for example, which is approximately 70 miles, and you're having a bad day or you feel like getting back or whatever may happen, you can flip early and hop on the red course and cut your mileage. Similarly, the red course can cut to green and cut their mileage. The black course can cut to blue. So it's really set up in a great way that there are a lot of efficiencies from the operations and safety perspective. And then there's also options for riders, and they're not out there stranded or calling for help or calling to get a ride back if they've potentially not having a good day or have bitten off a little more than they can chew.
You have some excellent routes published on your website for people who want to do some gravel rides there around Steamboat. But what about somebody who's just wanting to get into gravel riding and, whether they have a gravel bike or just a mountain bike? Any recommendations on sort of how to choose a route based on your experience
Yeah,
when you
no,
travel?
that's a great question. So if someone is deciding whether you're in Steamboat or anywhere, and you can absolutely ride these gravel roads on a mountain bike. It's more comfortable if you're just getting into it and want to see what it's all about. The things to look at least in mountain areas, are distance and elevation. So elevation gain is very significant. You can do a 30-mile ride, and if it has 3,000, 4,000 feet of climbing, that might take you, 5 hours, even though it's a 30-mile ride. It could take you longer than that. So really looking at what that elevation gain is. And the fun thing with gravel, you can stop along the way. We filter water sometimes when you're not going through towns, but if you are looking for doing a ride, you can ride to a certain town that has a coffee shop or that has a market. And we often do our rides that way. At least in Routt County, there's Oak Creek or Hayden. There's Yampa, Phippsburg, Clark. There are quite a few places where we go to a town that's nearby, and that's our destination. And then we are able to fill our bottles, grab a snack, and then ride back. So that's a fun way to do a ride and take your time and go out and just enjoy the day, and see what the different types of roads are out there. They can change a lot, and having a gravel bike or a mountain bike allows you to handle any of that terrain.
Excellent. Are there any, like I use Trailforks for a single track, and it has a lot of information about the trail or even the region and the technical features, the usage, that sort of thing. I grew up ranching, and so I kind of knew what roads were more heavily used and would be a little riskier of like a cow or horse trailer coming by. Are there any online resources, somebody's in some random location that helps sort of pick the roads based on usage and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say we tend to use Strava heat maps, and that just shows you where the other cyclists have ridden, and that's really a great indication of, especially when you go somewhere you've never been before, to see this is where the locals ride. This is probably a pretty safe area, and no one's ever ridden here. Maybe this is a private property, or there's a fence there, or some reason not to go to that area. So yeah, I think those are the things that we look at.
I learned so much doing this podcast project because I never use Strava heat maps for
But they're
single
great.
track stuff. I just kind of know where I want to go, but I'm definitely going to use that next time I want to go out on gravel. And then your race talks about, at least for some of the courses, it not being quite as technical as, let's say, an Unbound. I actually grew up in Southeast Kansas and have a lot of family in the Flint Hills there. So I know those roads pretty good and I know how challenging they can be. So talk a little bit about your course versus, what sort of technical features do people want to avoid if they're new to gravel, and how would they avoid that?
Yeah, you can often read about any sort of race or ride that you're going to do when if it's, especially if it's a race, they'll tell you what that terrain is. And um, ruts can be Ruts are okay when you're going really slowly. Ruts are scary when you're in a pack and going fast. And so terrain can change, and the mountain bike listeners know that. Like if you ride slowly here in Steamboat on Emerald Mountain, there's nothing technical in your way and it's no problem. When you go at speed and you're racing and someone's on your wheel and you're trying to get around something, it can feel a little bit more technical. So I would say it's similar with ruts that you see in certain areas. Some are rocky. I've done an event in Spain where you're climbing in mud, you're going over rocks, so it felt to me like a mountain bike race. So looking at those, if you see that it's a road, a lot of these around here, the speed limit's 45 miles per hour. So most likely it's a pretty smooth road and not too technical. The more you're getting into double track, kind of the more technical that it would be.
Okay. And getting back to the race format a little bit, talk about the Friday night hill climb. That's a little bit of a unique kickoff, which I love that you do that. It's kind of like the Whiskey Off Road here in Prescott has the Fat Tire Crit downtown.
Yeah, the hill climb came when we felt like there was becoming a little bit of a change in the gravel. Like gravel started this very adventurous, like everything's fun. We're all in it together. You see someone else and you help them out and ride together. And there's been a shift over the years. And we started to see that gravel was getting very serious. And we too, but like we offer a prize purse and we understand that there are people making a living doing our event. And so we understand that element, but we have a value, and that's fun. And gravel's always supposed to be fun. That was the purpose of it. That's what really changed it from what the old sort of road cycling was rooted in so much serious, like right and wrong rules, and gravel was supposed to be fun. So we wanted to set the tone for the weekend and put together the hill climb. And that's at Powelson, which is just right downtown Steamboat. There's this lovely mountain that we use for mountain biking and skiing, and it's used year round by all the locals. And so we decided to do a hill climb. And as we were planning it, we said, why don't we do costume? And the riders just embraced it. We had Phil Guyman came in and he was serious. He was in a skin suit. And then Pete Stetno was dressed as Wonder Woman. And then Meg Fisher was Dolly Parton. Like Alexi Vermeulen was there. I mean, it was just incredible, the people who showed up and how much they embraced it and embraced the fun before getting very serious. And we just have this incredible place to watch. So while the riders were absolutely hysterical, the biggest surprise to me was seeing that it was like Tour de France style, like 5, 6 people deep, like lining up the hill climb where all the riders went, pushing them along, just celebrating there. So it was something. We had this idea. We're like, will anyone show up? Will it work? And it just blew our minds how much people embraced it. So I think there was really that was the need was out there, the interest, like let's let loose a little bit. This is 2 days before the race. This is a lovely place. We're here in Steamboat in the summertime. Let's have some fun. And so that was the purpose of it. And then the proceeds for the race entries go to a local cycling organization called the Cycle Effect, and that's for young girls and women getting into cycling. So the whole event, it just makes you feel really good, and it's a blast, and it's fun. It's silly fun.
And for those who have never been to Howelson Hill, when Amy says a hill climb, You definitely need some help going up that hill because I mean this is the run that my kids learned to ski on, so it's basically like riding straight up a ski run. And then am I remembering correctly? It kind of wraps around on the old road up to Quarry and
Yes,
goes up
like
a
the
little bit that
Black
way too.
Mirror Road, and you go up to the
Yeah.
chairlift. I can see it right here from my window, and it's like the climb is so I mean, there's no way, even in the best of times with no one in my way, I can't make it up that climb. So I get a lot of help. I usually get pushed a little bit and then I walk, but it's and then my lungs are burning for the rest of the weekend.
Okay, I'm
So
glad I'm not the only
yeah,
one.
it's real.
Um, so you talked about the cash purse. Talk a little bit about, what the pros are getting paid out for that.
Yeah, so we have since the outset actually, and this was before it was done in gravel. In fact, it was always talked about on podcasts like is SBT like ruining the spirit of gravel? That was always the discussion. And we did start with a $22,000 prize purse, and that's split evenly among men and women, always has been equal pay. And the thinking of that at the time, it was really hard to make it as a pro cyclist. So I realized now from 2019 the world has changed a lot. You can make it via sponsorship and a lot of different things as a pro gravel cyclist, but at the time not many people, I don't think anyone paid out for cycling, and we thought gosh, it's expensive to get here. We never paid appearance fees. We don't believe there everyone's important to us, so bringing some pro versus another versus an amateur versus an influencer, we don't participate in any of that. So we said, why don't we just do really good cash for the top 5 men and women? And then our age groupers get great prizes from our sponsors. And when I say great prizes, it's like helmets, sunglasses, tires, like Wahoos, like really good stuff. So we feel really good about the pros, giving them an additional reason to go hard and help with just a little bit with making a living, and then for the amateurs, worthwhile, really incredible products for their results.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. I really admire the leading approach that you and, I spoke with Todd Sadoff from Epic Rides on a previous episode. He talked about the importance of that cash purse from the beginning of his events as well. Because I think he had a female friend who came back from a world renowned bike race with like $100 check or maybe even less than that and a
Yeah,
Timex watch. And so it's awesome to see the level of competitors that cash purse attracts come to town and
it does.
um, join
And
the
it
community.
needs to happen. It's funny. I race pro, and we did a race in Europe and on the US national team, and we won this race in Czech Republic. And we each got bags of like lotion and face products. I was like, I cannot make
Yeah.
a living off of lotion. This is
Todd
love.
also talks about, not trying to bash all the other races, but he talks about, if I remember right in our interview, that a lot of races, the cash is subject to certain attendance or something like that versus
Yeah.
I love your approach, and I love, split evenly between the male and the female. That's not always the case. So getting into one topic of some challenges that you've experienced, and I take this to heart because I grew up ranching, and so I understand the landowners' concerns with your event, and I really appreciate what your team did to address those. Bikers for the most part, in my experience, are very respectful of the environment they're riding in, but there's always a few that are not. And
Yeah.
would you mind sharing some of the challenges and the conflict that you had with some of the landowners and everything that people were riding by, and most importantly, the amazing things that your team did to collaborate with them and then educate those cyclists to sort of treat it like it's your land?
Yeah. Yeah. So this really started, as I mentioned, SBT started in 2019. After our 2023 event, we'd had 3,000 riders for the past 3 years. And after the event, I just started to hear, even from the city, like, oh, there are some things that didn't go great, and the commissioners. And so our team put together this listening session, and we hosted it at a local bank, and they are one of our sponsors. And I pulled up to the bank with a presentation in hand, kind of talking a little bit about our event, and the parking lot was packed. And so I went in not expecting that, and there were probably at least 50 people in the conference room, and they were angry. And they were angry about a lot of different things. So SBT was during the county fair. We had cyclists that two-way cycling traffic, meaning bikes are going both directions at some point in the day. So if you're pulling out of your driveway, you might have bikes left and right. And regardless of which way you go, you'll have bikes on the road. And then there was like cyclists who went to the bathroom, which is customary for many, I should say, of us who are outside and we find a place to go and we think it's very remote. And so you don't see any houses for miles and you think you can go there on the side of the road. So what the rural community was explaining to us is, one, this is our property, this is our land, these are our homes. And then not being able to get to the county fair because of bikes all over the road was really tough. And so our team acknowledged that we needed to make some changes without a doubt. We knew this is a problem, and a lot of the complaints that we were hearing were absolutely legitimate and things that we needed to change. So it took about a year and a half, almost 2 years, to get to where we are right now, which is I would say is in a really good place with commissioners, city, and rural community. And it took a lot of listening sessions. And what we did, we changed the things we could change. So county fair was a no-brainer. We had to move off. This is an event that's been going on for 100 years in Routt County, and we shouldn't be the same weekend. So we moved our event to June. We no longer have two-way cycling traffic. We put 69 porta potties on course last year. It's just like bonkers how many we have. But also, so those were the changes that we as an event made. But the cycling behavior is an interesting one. So anytime you have 3,000 people anywhere, a concert or skiing or cycling or absolutely anywhere, you're going to have a couple of bad eggs. And I think that we acknowledge. But what we can do is educate riders. And there's a lot that we needed to teach, and we talk so much about respecting the whether it's a rural community, respect your fellow cyclist, stay on the right side of the road. That's for your safety and the safety of the driver or the tractor or the runner or whoever might be coming your way, and really putting that messaging out to riders. And we've been doing that. We call them the gravel oaths or GRVL oaths, and it is follow rules of the road. No trust. What we mean by trespassing is don't walk into a field and go to the bathroom. Somebody owns that field. And be a good person. Like do the right thing. Like you're in a bike race, but that doesn't mean you can't put your hand up or wave or nod or be respectful. And if somebody drives by you or buzzes you, don't flip them off. Put your hand up, be the better person. So all of these things that we've been communicating with our riders, we have them sign off on that at registration. We talk about it at our rider meeting. We put it in our rider guide. We send in emails. It's at the bottom of my email signature line. Like we do everything we can. And what's been really exciting to me is riders are listening. Like we had 2 incidents, and we have people looking. We have a command center, which means like our phone number is everywhere. You can reach an SBT Gravel staff 24/7, like with any issue you see from one of us doing something wrong race week. And we're not getting many calls. Like people are behaving. The other side of that is that the riders, we had porta potties all over the course, but there was one place that was like this aid station that we needed more. And I guess the line was really long. And I was like, I will put as many as we need to next year. But that makes me so happy that our riders listened. Like that would never have happened 3 years ago. Like you would have had people going everywhere. So you can change behavior. I think cycling is one of those sports that you don't learn it when you're 5, like soccer, and you get all the rules and they're like, yeah, you don't pick up the ball. You don't do that. Like no one teaches. So many people learn to ride a bike when they're adults, and they're like, oh yeah, you ride all the way to the right. Like I tell adults that all day long. So it's just like it, but it's exciting to me that we can we can change cycling behavior, and we're chipping away. We won't get to 100%, but we're trying, and we're really trying to make sure everyone understands. So we have a baseline, and it's not just when you come to Routt County, it's when you go anywhere, like anywhere in the world. These are the things you should do.
That's excellent to hear. One of the things I often reference with trail etiquette down here in Arizona is that when I lived in Steamboat, there's a lot of Olympians living there, and I would see even they, in the middle of training, be super courteous to other people on the ski run or on the bike trail or that sort of thing. And so it's just a great reminder that no matter how fast you are or how much is at risk at a particular race, it's worth being courteous. And so I always talk about competition with courtesy. And one of the things that I've sort of noticed, it's funny, my friend Tim took that photo of that person relieving themselves by the hay bale. And I think people, if they're going to go out on gravel roads, they need to understand that it is different than being out in the national forest where, yes, you can go behind a tree, it's on public land, and people are used to that with camping and that sort of thing, versus going behind the hay bale. That is somebody's hay bale, and 4-year-old daughter might be looking out on you. So I really, really appreciate the approach that you all took with that community outreach. So talk about sort of the proactive, positive stuff that you've always done. I know you've got a lot of money raised, not just for cycling charities, but like the Boys and Girls Club, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's been instrumental since the beginning. And we've always thought this was back from Mark, my former partner who you knew. We talked about, we want to invest in the rider experience. So make sure that everything we do is giving back to the riders, so we want them to have an experience that they love and they want to come back to whenever they're here. The second is investing in the community, and that's whatever we can do to support Steamboat Springs, whether that's hiring our caterers locally, doing every vendor we can that's local. How do we support our community in the best way possible? And then the third part of that is causes that are important to us. And what's really the key ones, we've worked really hard on getting on juniors. And so having a junior program as racing component that's part of a series with USA Cycling to get more juniors into the event. We work with the cycle effect, which I mentioned earlier. Boys and Girls Club, we've worked with since the outset. So that's really fun. We have a lot of the kids from Boys and Girls Club work at an aid station. And before doing that, I went and gave a talk to them and talked about grit and working hard. And we talked a lot about bike racing. And so they not only saw that in action with the riders, but the funny thing, when I went back to the organization, they said was, we had grit as the volunteers. It was a long day and it was hot. And I wanted to go home and I had to stay out there another hour. And it was so cool to see them learn this full circle of but all sides of something and what it means to work hard. It doesn't mean just on a bike. It means what the work behind it too. So it's been fun to work with a lot of these local organizations. We're really proud of our women's initiatives. Female percentage last year was 32%. And in cycling, that's unheard of. It's really, we work hard. We do a lot of efforts, and to get 32% women at our event, we couldn't be happier. These are causes that are really important and that you have to put effort into. None of it happens naturally. You don't just get juniors at an event. You don't just get additional women or high percentages of women. It takes a lot of deliberate effort. And so we see ourselves in a position to create that platform to get, in the end, we want more people on bikes. We think it's positive for health and mental health and physical health, and just the more people who can get on bikes and can come and enjoy a cycling experience, the better.
I definitely have seen the benefits of the diverse demographic as well as the effort required to do so. When my daughter was on the bike team, I got up to, I think it was 48% female, and I thought I should buy a lottery ticket. That was so, it was easy when her friends, were talking with her about it, but it also helped the boys as well, just to have that diversity. And when I first started cycling, I volunteered at the Ride for Yellow and different stuff. And I thought, man, this is really hard to be out here volunteering, but surely it's a lot harder to race. But now that I race too, it's hard to tell, because the race might be 4 to 6 hours, but the volunteering might be 12 to 16. So I really
Volunteering
appreciate,
is really hard. Yes,
yeah, I
I
really appreciate the enthusiasm of bike race volunteers. And then one of my favorite organizations there, I think it was in Hayden Wright, is Totally Kids. Am I remembering
yes.
correctly that you have had
Yes.
them design the socks?
Yes, so that was really fun. We took that, we said, come up with the design and then we'll have proceeds from our socks will go to Totally Kids. And it was I wear them almost every day. They're my favorite socks. They say home on the bottom and there's like a sunshine and mountains and it's just like it's the neatest thing. And we actually couldn't decide, so we combined like two of the kids' drawings into one on the sock and worked with a local company, Point Six, who makes socks. Yeah, so it was really this incredible collaboration to be able to raise money and pull the kids in and pull in a local business. We definitely try to do that type of thing however we can to really pull the entire community into our event.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Point Six, they're getting more and more retailers I've noticed, but founders of Smartwool started another company there. And are Patty and Duke still
They
in
are.
Steamboat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are one of my favorite sock brands.
They're
So I
great.
highly recommend.
Yes, they're
Very
good
involved.
socks too.
Yeah,
Yep.
very involved in the community, I found. So you've talked a little bit about the demographic. I love the juniors and the female focus, but circle back to a comment you made earlier around just general rider experience in that family friendly environment. I remember there was a article in the Steamboat newspaper there about cycling kind of revolving around a certain look and body type. And I absolutely felt that when I got into cycling, but I think your team has done an amazing job attracting people. So talk a little bit more about, what the person's going to find when they show up. We talked about the Friday hill climb fun, but the actual race, what have you done to disrupt that? You know,
Love that question because I think to me gravel has fundamentally shifted the face of cycling. And I come from a racing background, and I will tell you, I was scared when I went to a group ride as a pro cyclist. Like, do I belong here? Do I look the part? Am I going to be able to hang? Like, like, it's scary. If I fall off the back, do I know how to get home? Do I have everything to fix a flat? Like, all the things that go through your head. And I thought, like, this is what I do for a living. Imagine like the person who's here is like, oh gosh, I'm wearing cut off shorts. This isn't right. Or the person who doesn't have the right bike or who has. And so gravel disrupts all of that. And gravel is show up here and wear whatever you want. Wear a party shirt, wear a jersey. We don't care. Like wear a t-shirt. It doesn't matter. And come here and choose if you want a party pace or a race. And if you want to go a shorter distance, we think that's great. We have some of our partners do a really good job of this. So SRAM has an oasis out on course where when you're riding, you are in the middle of nowhere. You haven't passed like any establishment in a long time. And you get to, it's like a teepee. It's this lovely building and you go in and there's just like people there, music's blaring. There's this giant scramble and you're like, where am I? And it's this incredible place. And you're greeted along the entire way of the course to kind of get you to be excited as you move along. Like Chamois Butter every year does this great activation. It's an aid station and they have bacon, they have music, it's a party scene. We have people that spend an hour there. So it's like they have 7 miles to go back into town and they don't want to leave the aid station. So we make them really fun. And so you can have any day you want. Like last year we had the green course. We had Is King, for example. She was at the time 7 months pregnant at least, and she rode it with her mom. So it was like this 3 generation, 2.5 generation on bikes together doing the green course and just having a blast the whole way. And so we make sure what we want is for you to worry about riding your bike and we want to worry about the other stuff. So there's coffee when you show up on the start line, there's music, we have aid stations every 20 to 30 miles, porta potties everywhere. Our courses are signed so you know where to go just in case your Wahoo computer, you don't, you're not paying attention to it. There's a sign telling you which direction. You, as I was mentioning before, you can cut the course early. You're ready to get back to town. You can take a different course. So all along the way, we want to make sure that your needs are met. Aid stations have mechanics, aid stations have medics. So we really look to take care of you along the way. And then you finish and you're on Yampa Street. And for those who've never been to downtown Steamboat, the river is flowing right next to you. Yampa Street is shut down. It's just this iconic street. The ski mountain is behind you. Howlison Hill, our local ski hill, is right next to you. And you get a drink, you get a meal, you can soak in the river, and people hang out. And it's just a really fun, encouraging atmosphere. Something we do every year, our team rule is you greet and celebrate the last finisher. So whenever that is, whatever you're doing, you drop everything. And if you're working the merch tent or food or setting up tables or whatever you're doing, you drop it, you come for the last finisher. And we've done that every year. And it's just this wonderful celebration that everyone comes together. And I think every year I'm in tears, and I'm not usually a crier. So it's just this year it was an 82-year-old who finished last, and he did the blue course, and it was just he just made the 10 cut, and he was just beside himself how thrilled he was. And every year you have somebody who finishes that you are so inspired, it makes you want to like get on your bike. So that's another piece that I think really helps the energy and the culture and what we all stand for as a team.
Well, I was going to wait until the end to say this, but I can't wait. You've totally motivated me. I'm going to race next year. This just sounds like the best event because all of these sort of philosophical elements that you have, I love. I see those at some of the races that I do participate in, and we have a similar thing on the team that I started. The fast A group would go out and sweep in the last group, to ride in together. So I love that a greeting of the last finisher. And then I'm totally going to steal your party pace or race phrase. I love that, and I do think that there's lots of people out there, myself certainly included, that get nervous going on a group ride. You sort of started telling that story. And I remember the first one I did with Route County riders, and I show up and just everybody's such a way stronger rider than me. And then they told me where we were riding to up Howlison, and I didn't even know that was possible to do on a bike. Now it's relatively easy for me, but I always like to remind myself of that when I host group rides and new riders show up. I mean, there's always somebody faster, always somebody slower. Let's just go have fun. And I'm totally going to use that party pace or a race phrase
Yeah.
for that. So just a couple more questions, and then I've got kind of a fun lightning round I like to do with folks. But let's take myself, right? I've don't have a gravel bike, but I'm thinking about giving it a try. So do I go out on my mountain bike at first, or do I need some specific equipment? How do I sort of get into this gravel riding thing?
Yeah, I think starting on a mountain bike just to feel it out and see what the roads are like. I do think you will have more fun on a gravel bike because it is faster. So I think eventually you do go to a gravel bike, but you can find them. Like you can definitely get them at reasonable costs. You can borrow somebody's to start out with or demo one or rent one to just make sure you like it. But they are so versatile. They are just like almost all I ride is my gravel bike. And sometimes I can go on single track and sometimes the road and sometimes gravel. And it's just it's a really diverse and adaptable bike. So I'd say check out the roads in your area and look for those gravel roads. But the beauty of cycling, you can train on your mountain bike, you can train on a road bike. You can get in your cycling muscles or your cycling muscles. So you're working your power and your strength when you're riding your mountain bike, and you're working endurance on the road. So don't feel like you have to train exclusively gravel to do a gravel event. Like it all counts. It's all that pedaling motion. So getting out and riding, and then making sure that you like the gravel. But I don't know how you wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, I unfortunately live in an area where the the automobile drivers aren't quite as welcoming as cyclists as I experienced in Rock County. So I may just show up and throw up at your event because I'm a little hesitant to ride around here. But I definitely have seen in action your statement around how capable a gravel bike is. So we have a pro cyclist here who brought her gravel bike to a new gravity trail system grand opening, and it's pretty much, think of like NPR, and I've
Yeah.
got photos of her like with both wheels off the ground
Oh,
on this gravel bike. I was
yeah,
pretty
that's
impressed.
so great. Yeah. They make them to accommodate a really wide tire now. And yeah, in fact, everyone's going a little bit wider. So yeah, there's a lot they can do.
And then what about for your first gravel race? Like, let's say I've done some mountain biking races. What's different between that and the gravel event?
Yeah, they're typically mass start. And so you will be lined up with a group regardless of which event you do. So if you were to do SBT, let's say you do the red course, approximately 50 miles, you will start with a group, but you line up where you feel comfortable. If you want to hammer and you think you're one of the fastest in the group, you line up in the front. If you're like, nope, I'm taking my time, I don't want to get involved in this mess at the beginning, you can just line up behind. And if you do that, then you're not in the chaos at all. So that type of event is great. Just signing up for the distance that works well for you, and just know that, know that it'll be a mass start, and that's probably the point where it's a little intimidating for many to stand in a group, and you're like, oh, how's this going to unfold? How are we all going to spread out? Like, how fast is everyone going to go? And then just pacing yourself. It will eventually spread out, and I always encourage people to stop at the aid stations and look around. It's a gravel event. They're beautiful. The countryside is great. So definitely just, go as slowly as you want at the beginning. If you feel great at the end, then pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I find both intimidating and inspiring about these big mass starts is, yes, there's a lot of people that you're cycling next to, but there's also a lot of people that are cheering you on, right? And so sort of embracing that aspect. And we have a saying with some of the people that I race or coach with that, yeah, just start in the back, even maybe have a gap between the
Mhm.
group and you. And for those with younger kids who watch the cartoon Paw Patrol, we kind of yell out like, this is the Paw Patrol group. We're just kind of crawling along, taking it easy. And one of the things I always tell new racers on pacing yourself is there's going to be plenty of people at that start that zoom past you, and then you're going to pass a
Oh,
mile or two or whatever down the
that is
road.
like, that's one of the hardest things for people to learn is pacing themselves. You think you feel okay because you have so much adrenaline in the first
Yeah.
5 minutes, and you're just like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm going 26 miles per hour, and I'm fine. And you're like, you're not gonna be in like a few
Yeah.
minutes. Oh, slow it down.
It's funny because I've upgraded categories at races just to be with the more mature people who don't blow it from the
Yeah,
beginning, because that does make me pretty nervous and some of the crashes that happen and that sort of thing. Well, this
yeah.
has been fantastic. I've learned a ton. And again, I'm totally coming up next
Oh,
summer. This
good.
sounds so fun. So just a couple quick lightning round questions before we end, and then I'll ask you to give kind of a final overview of the event for anybody else who's interested in checking it out. So first bike that you ever owned?
I owned a Cannondale road bike.
Still have it?
No, I wish it's such a like wonderful like place in my heart to think of that bike. Earned money for it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I feel the same about my first trek. If your bike could talk, what would it say about you?
Would say thank you for getting me out almost every day.
Awesome. Um, what's your favorite mountain bike trail in Steamboat?
Ooh, I would say Morning Gloria.
Two? Actually,
Yeah.
no, my favorite is climbing that, and then I love going down. Is it Wild Rose? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, Wild Rose is gorgeous, especially in 2 weeks when the leaves are
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just there's never anybody up there. And talking about stopping at the aid stations, I always stop at that bench there and just
Yes. No one's ever
and
sitting
awe.
there. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the most challenging bike ride you've ever done, and what did you learn from that?
Um, let's see. Most challenging, I would say, gosh, I'm struggling between, I know this is lightning round and I'm pausing a lot.
That's okay.
So BTR is a trail and steamboat that's really technical.
Yeah.
And so I have that in my mind, just like I walked a ton. And I think that is sort of the what it taught me is like you can make your way down stuff. And you just need to, like, if you're not comfortable, then walk, and that's okay. I think I always worry about holding up my friends, or like there's an expectation that I'm fast because I used to race fast on the road, but it doesn't translate into mountain biking at all. So I have to have the confidence in myself to be like, it's okay that I'm not a great mountain biker. It's okay to walk. It's okay to keep myself within my zone. And it's still worth it. It's fun to like have that challenge and get that adrenaline rush.
Well, if you're doing BTR, then you're a pretty decent mountain biker, but I love that. I just told that to some people I took out on a pre-ride of a race course the other day. I said, everybody can make this. We just have to walk a few times. And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes that's more fun. Sometimes that's faster. I was pre-riding a course and I was just cramping. And so I walked up. It's this section called Cramp Hill, so it's not very fast. Anyways, and I got a
Yeah.
PR on Strava. And I'm like, heck, maybe next year I'll just get off my bike and walk.
And maybe you don't worry about it. Yeah. That's
Last question for the lightning round is describe the challenge of putting on this bike race that you do, but in just one word.
thinking nuances.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate this. Is an event I've always known about, but I'm gonna come give it a try. So you've at least motivated me, and hopefully I'll carpool up with 3 or 4 of my friends here from Arizona. Maybe just in closing, could you give one more brief overview of the event, when it will be in 2026? You mentioned, some pretty new course changes, how people can register. And then also, if people want to hear more from you, you have a pretty interesting book that they might want to check out.
Yes. Yes. So for SBT, our registration's opening earlier this year. So it opens October 14th. It's we random selection process that's also known as a lottery. So put your name in the hat, and we announce everyone who got in early November. Mark your calendars for October 14th to register. That's for the 2026 event. So the event takes place on June 28th is the day of the race, but come early. We have an expo 2 days before, the hill climb before. There's a lot of activity leading up into the race. So come spend a weekend, a week, whatever you can in Steamboat, and you will find plenty to do here, whether it's mountain biking, gravel riding, road riding, hiking, river rafting, whatever you want to do. We have a lot of activities. So that's the event. And just see what you want to sign up for. You can always change course distances, but we have something for everyone. We have the 30-ish mile all the way up to the 120 miles. So you choose what works for you, what appeals to you. And if your training isn't going as planned or goes better than planned, you can adjust your course as it gets closer. So throw your name in the hat, and we'd love to welcome you to Steamboat this coming June. In terms of, and that to any information you're looking for, it's sbtgrvl.com. And for me, it's Amy M. Charity, and I've written a book called The Wrong Side of Comfortable. So if you want to read a bit about a road racing story, there's some good little life tidbits in the book as well. So would love for you to check that out.
Thanks again, Amy. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you'll see a lot more people checking out the event.
Yeah, we do too. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.